big episode.
Well, thanks for letting me sit on the couch. Bye.
Well, I mean, you can try and buy again for the couch for this next one. Everyone can buy again.
Thank you. I have to go. Can't watch the second one with you guys, but this was fun. Have a good time.
Bye, Heather.
Bye, Heather.
All right. We are going to, a couple of folks here. All right. So we are going to do this again. And when I do, please raise your hand if you'd like to come up here and join me for this next episode, which is a band featured episode, big episode. And hand is raising is on. All right. Amy does want to join. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. All right, that's our 14. And what was really cool was that as I was going through, I saw that we got a few international folks up here. That's 14. That should be 14. Who did I miss? I mean, I didn't miss anyone. Oh, there we go. Great, Laura. Okay, we are closing off the couch. But worry not, my friends. We will open it again at the end of this episode so that we can talk about everything we saw in episode 18, as well as everything we are about to see in episode 19. I have lots of memories from this particular episode. Obviously, it was a really big episode, so it just sticks in my mind. Little things that happened on set that I will share as I remember them, or we'll talk about them in post-show.
There's more nationals here, so it's really great.
Yeah, what's that? Say again?
I wanted to say it's great to have more and more internationals joining in, so that's really cool.
Yeah, we got Amy,
I was watching
Claudia,
the other episode, but I was watching
Sarah.
the football at the same time, so I didn't want to give up my spot. Then someone else could.
I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was vaccine or what.
Well, I'm tired from the vaccine and I'm in pain, but I didn't want someone to give up their spot if I couldn't really commit to an episode. I would have felt really bad. So I was like, I'll try and get for the second one.
All right.
Because
this is a good one.
when England play, every English person is like useless to everyone else.
How's everybody doing? Are we ready to start? Does anybody need a second to get anything caught up? Mary, are we good?
I'm all good over here.
Okay, great.
I have a super quick question.
Mm-hmm.
After this episode, can we try and go in order with the post talk and talk about the first episode first?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So we should absolutely do that.
Thank you.
All right, and so let me start my episode really quick and then pause it. There we go. All right. Okay. I'm not going to do my spiel. I'm hoping that folks who joined us in the beginning were able to hear it, and folks who are joining us now have heard it before. We are going to begin our episodes. Oh, let me actually open up the Remarkers app. Oh, okay. And this is Keg Max, which I'm guessing is Max Medina. All right.
Or keg out to the max, buddy.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought it was, because that's what I thought it was when I did the episode. But no, but now that I know Max Medina is back for us, it's probably about Max Medina. Okay. You know the drill. We're gonna hit our play buttons on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's how I feel.
That just suddenly reminds me of the episode where they were at the bar. There's the rub.
Me too. That's the first thought in my mind.
He's getting 40-60 by Lloyd.
Oh, I love me a good Prince reference. I actually think the fact that Emily threw that party was out of desperation because she knew she'd be depressed on Friday without them. So she came up with a big party.
That seems to track. I mean,
I
seems reasonable.
Trying to keep herself cheery.
Hello, anyway. Go T.
T, let's see how synced we are. I will follow. Oh, where you need. I will follow anyway. You tell me to if you need me to be with you.
Is this a test run
follow.
John?
Oh, you.
It looks like John and I are at the exact
I'm
same
That was
spot.
really synced up with you there, John.
That was abysmal.
No, but it was
Hey.
very helpful. Thank you.
Hold on. Let's see. Shared card or single card? Shared card. What do you think? Shared card or single?
I think single. I'm betting on single.
I think shared.
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 No, you guys have a big part.
We're still too small. We start getting single later. Our agents get a little more pushy.
There are no small roles, just small actors, or however that saying goes.
Correct. Oh, this was directed by Chris Long. Chris Long was an awesome director who ended up becoming a producer on the show. He became a producer on the show, and his job became sort of overseeing all the directors and making sure that they were kind of all staying within the style of the show. He told me something so insightful that I'm going to talk about after the show, or that I'll mention after the show, that I'll never forget about directing. But that's also about art in general. Oh my gosh, I remember this. I think this is why I thought I was Team Jess. Because all I had was this context here to start with.
Knowledge is power.
Oh my gosh, this is funny. I kind of love the sweater you're wearing.
I love it. I loved everything I wore on that show, with the exception of one episode. That was funny. I'm doing a little bit of the raspy thing though again. We are the we. But I mean, I didn't really know who the Jess character was at all. I just saw him there in that scene with us, and I just thought he was a nice guy. Little did I know.
Wasn't that James Bond reference made in the first season also?
But James Bond is geeky. I'm sorry to say.
Why would they need a limo for the Stars Hollow prom though? They could just walk a block. Seems like a lot of money to spend for a block or two.
Aren't you driving like around the block just to enjoy it? We don't do that at all. So I just thought if you live nearby, you just drive around the block, enjoy it, and then go to school ball.
Go on an ice cream run.
Yeah, something like that. And now Michelle likes dogs. He tries to get rid of his neighbor's dog.
Well, they weren't Papa and Chin Chin, so
He probably never had really contact, just heard them or were far away. I think it's more like seeing them and feeling, oh, they're so cute. They're little tiny babies.
Our grad night was in Disney World.
What?
Yeah, in Florida, pretty much every high school in Florida has their grad night at Disney World. So like around that time of year, Disney World's just cycling in like every night. It'll be like, 30 high schools all roaming the park at night again.
A lot.
My brother works at Disney World and has to staff those events, so I can concur.
My daughter.
I have a funny story about that afterwards as well.
We didn't even have grad night. I don't even know what it is.
My
I'll talk about
high
it
school is
afterwards. I'll talk about it afterwards. I like that little hat, by the way.
Like an actual Kango.
What in the world happened to Alex? Where is that guy?
The world may never know.
Are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Did they really
he
just
just
let?
said.
Did they just evaporate that character?
Yeah, he was just never. We never find it out, so it's no spoiler because we never find out. It's he just.
Oh my goodness, that's
But
so
it's
funny.
a funny thing. He's like the father in Twilight, so sometimes we joke, oh, he's just in Twilight now.
Yeah, I believe he was contractually obligated elsewhere, and so he would just disappeared into thin air.
It's a shame because he really fitted good to Lorelai, so just make him disappear was really a sad storyline. I so sympathize with the principal right now.
So why didn't they contact Luke ever? Probably because he's 18.
Was the slip something he should have given Luke to get to an appointment? I don't know how it works, but in my school we got like something like a slip if something like this would happen, and the student would need to give the parents the thing, so they know there's an appointment.
Same here.
So they tried 9 times to reach Luke.
Unless it's like they said, if he was 18, they don't have to, or they're actually not allowed to because he's 18.
I think it depends on the state you live in, because some of them are still considered guardians until 22 if they're like full time at home.
Oh wow, till 2020.
Legally, yeah.
By the way, I just posted a photo in our Bag Boy Facebook group of what's happening right now. My daughter is experiencing Gilmore Girls for the first time. Just saying.
I can't see it.
I'll post it to Twitter after.
She's so adorable. I just checked the picture. She's like so amazed about it. Thank you for sharing that cute moment with us.
That picture is so sweet.
It sounds too Milli Vanilli.
She looks pretty into the show. She knows how belly.
Oh, Chauncey. That's Chauncey, right? Isn't that his name?
Yes, that's Chauncey.
Also, by the way, all of that little background chatter between me and Zach, or me and Todd, that was all done in post in the studio.
Is she looking at the screen like that when you're on screen, Brian, as Brian? Like two dads?
There's the first half of the title.
I really don't want you to get electrocuted and die. Secretly, he really does.
Did he get to do that a whole bunch?
I can't remember. Probably. Like during the shooting of this, I spent a lot of time hanging out with, well, not a lot of time, but certainly more time than I'd ever had with Alexis and Milo. So that was also a little part of it. My sort of being into the Jess character, I didn't really know. I just all I had to go on was conversations that I was having with the actor. It's funny. I legitimately was getting nauseous there because I kept eating the sandwich. I kept like biting into it before we would take the shot. They didn't even use me biting into it, but I kept biting into it. So I ate so much of that I
What
got
kind of
nauseous.
sandwich was it? You're so
It was a peanut butter
dedicated
and jelly
to
sandwich.
cons.
It was peanut butter and jelly. And I remember like saying that, and I remember Milo being like, "Dude, are you okay? Do we need to like call somebody?" Like he was really like genuinely concerned. It was very sweet. The Rashamalans. Why doesn't anybody in the fandom call us the Rashamalans?
Because eventually you got me. We also can't spell it.
But people use "follow them to the edge of the desert." I feel like Rashamalans is a little bit funnier.
I'll call you the Chops.
There should be a band T-shirt with all of our names on it, like all the different ones: the We, the Chops, Follow Us to the Edge of the Desert, the Rashamalans, like or something, all crossed out, and then Hep Alien at the end.
Steph, get on it. I was just gonna say, are you?
They can look like the protester signs.
She's so awkward in this scene.
What is going on?
I love how
Doing the
she
turn
just
down service.
like tossed those pillows.
It's all about awkwardness.
Oof.
Getting a little close there, Brian.
Yeah. Ooh. That was 80 yard. Big time. Jealousy does not look good on Dave. Sorry.
Jealousy doesn't look good on anyone.
No, I know that was the joke. We've said that before.
Oh, I didn't know that. I probably missed that. You know, internationals.
No, I know. You definitely missed it. I love that actor. I just
love
love
him.
that actor.
I love him too. He's so amazing.
I love that actor, and then of course I know when he comes back, or one of the ones where he got the one. Well, I know the one who comes back that I'm in the episode because I remember the table read when he comes back from the. Well, you all know. I really like this Lindsay character. I think that she's just very nice. So it seems it.
Yeah, she's really a sweet person, I think.
She's very sweet.
She's nice and sweet, but she doesn't like do a whole lot. She's just there.
Yeah, I guess narratively that doesn't make her an interesting character, but seems like she'd be a very nice person if she was a real human that existed.
Amy, the red solo cup.
But solos. The Chilton moms have really gotten an upgrade. Huh?
I love her.
Am I mistaken, or didn't they say they had a bad experience in like the first season about doing something on a boat at the same school?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
She's like a hit and run, in and out fast.
None of the teachers are around time in this school.
Lorelai's outfit is so early odds with the bell bottom and the heel. That was such a look I was rocking as well.
It really is. If she thinks that he's avoiding her, then she would assume that he's avoiding her for a reason. And I just don't see why she's pushing this, given the fact that she left him.
Yeah, but she's still into him. That's the thing. She can never decide who's she into. And
It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
She's not good in relationships with men at all. It's not something she can do.
It's like, it just feels like she doesn't even realize that she essentially left him at the altar.
She doesn't know what she wants. She just can't make up her mind.
And she's not so great with boundaries.
I think sometimes she wants the attention of all the men, and then she has it, and then she's okay, like, okay, that's enough. And if they leave her, she wants the attention back on her.
Rory wants a lot because she has been given a lot.
He's giving big hints and she's not taking them well.
I think it's cruel of her to go back after leaving him at the altar and now go back. And what does she want from him?
Do you think she likes him, or do you think that she just wants to be liked by him?
The latter.
The latter, yeah.
My opinion is the latter, but we can talk about this afterwards because it's a big one. My goodness.
He's obviously hurt and she's prancing on him like a prey.
There's also the element of the one that got away.
The fact that she's doing this all while being with Alex.
Is she with Alex?
I don't know.
We don't know. That's the thing. We just don't know. But we would think at the moment she's still with Alex. And she probably thinks it too.
At one point, she mentioned that she was dating, but not a boyfriend-girlfriend situation.
It's local distance. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Did she call him Davy?
She did. I love Dave so much more for this scene.
Yeah, totally.
He saves her, but he's still mad.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's okay, John. It'll be okay.
Cover Josie's eyes.
Betsy took her, actually. She's good. Wait.
Yes. That's why I cannot beat Jess forever.
Me too.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Oh man, oh man.
I like Jess, but this scene makes everything like he's not a good guy. Sorry.
Oh shoot, oh shoot. Okay. Ooh.
Did you know what caused the fight before this, John?
I did not know what caused the fight. I just watched the fight happening because I was around for this. Had no idea.
It's a good reason for a fight, though.
This
Yes,
made
it
me
is.
not like Dean.
Same. It really made me not like Dean. I don't
Yeah.
condone what Jess was
Really?
doing upstairs, but the fact that he went after him, like, Rory's not yours, and you have no idea what actually happened. They could have broken up, and you're gonna go and fight
Oh,
him.
man.
Yeah,
I just love a good fight.
Rory was like showed in her eyes what happened. It's known what happened in like bedroom, so it was pretty obvious, and I think it's really great he defended her.
It's been building up to this fight all season long, though.
Like,
You know-
I agree, sure, like something might have happened, but Dean still didn't really have a right to attack him without actually knowing.
But Rory didn't stop him at first, and that was a sign for him to go on.
Well,
That
let's
was-
talk about it afterwards because this is big stuff.
Yeah, my only quick question is, were there any stunt people?
Yes, there were absolutely some people.
Damn.
Boy with toothache, no.
They look like real police. I guess that they didn't have their answering machine on that time.
Okay, can I just say that the police and the principal both being Black, diversity and authority.
That's a good point.
That's why I never had a problem with Gilmore Girls' diversity.
Oh, that's interesting.
I need
Let's definitely get into that. I'd like to talk about that. Hold on one second. Before we begin our chittery chat, let's open up this couch. Let's get some folks up here to join us. We are opening the couch now.
So we're going to start with the first episode. And
We are.
Yeah, and I've been keeping a list, John, of all the things that you said you want to talk about.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Like
Um,
stories that you're gonna share. So
yes.
just let me know before
Yes,
you ready.
yes.
Sorry,
Or
how can you have starting with the meal? You said there was something that the meal reminded you of that Richard.
the meal. Oh, this is not from Gilmore. And I said, not Gilmore Girls related. It just reminded me of a Thanksgiving that I had back in Chicago where my roommate was talking about his family's.
Can you please mute?
Who's got their?
Thank you. Sorry, John. It was just really loud on my phone.
No problem. Some folks I think are new and may not know. If you are new to the couch, to Clubhouse, just
We're starting
remember,
with the last episode, not this current one, but the one.
correct.
from
We
8 o'clock, right?
we are starting with the first one. Yes.
Good.
And
So I want
actually,
no part in the next one.
okay. So Mary's kept the list of some things that I wanted to mention. And actually, I'm gonna make Claudia, you're gonna be moderator. If you could help me bring folks up onto the couch, just be mindful of who is asking to be on the couch and that it is not somebody that clearly did not watch the show with us. You'll be able to tell.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, so it just reminded me of this story when I lived in Chicago. My roommate at the time, Lee Kirk, who is married to Jenna Fisher, who was, it was like the small group of us at university, which included Sean. It was Sean, me, Sean Gunn, me, Lee Kirk. Anyway, it reminded me of this Thanksgiving where Lee was talking about his mom's famous green bean casserole that he was going to contribute. We were going to do, an orphan's Thanksgiving where like nobody's really going home, so we're all going to just do a Thanksgiving at our apartment. And so everyone's talking about what they're going to bring, and he's just talking about this green bean casserole that he's so excited about sharing with us. So we all go shopping, and we're all there in the supermarket, and he's walking there, he's just grabbing, I got my French fried onions, I got my cream of mushroom soup, and then he just gets a big bag of fresh green beans from the produce section, and he's like actually kind of excited because his mom's recipe didn't use fresh green beans; they used canned green beans, and so his is going to be it's going to be even better, So we get back and we're all cooking our stuff, and the whole time he's so cool. He just knows what he's doing. He's just putting stuff in. He pours the soup in. He just takes the big thing of green beans and just puts them in, tops it with the onions, puts it in the oven, and cooks it for the amount of time. And we're all waiting. He takes the green beans out, of course, not realizing that the canned green beans are already cooked, so they're already soft. But just putting a bunch of fresh green beans in there, of course, he pulls it out, and we're all like looking at him like, how is it? And he's like, he takes a big scoop of it and he eats it, and then he just walks over to the garbage can and just dumps it all into the garbage can. Anyway,
We've all had those experiences.
It's a memory that I'll never forget, and it just reminded me of it when I saw what he made, because it kind of looked a little bit like the thing that Lee made.
Can I ask a question real quick to the room?
Yeah.
Speaking of food, can somebody explain to me about the Malamars? There was a lot of conversation in the first episode. I've never had one, and I don't understand why they're seasonal. Like, why are they seasonal? That's weird to me.
Okay, it's just to keep up with tradition.
Yeah. Historically, they were seasonal because the place that made them, like, it goes way back in history, and it's this big long story, but I don't have time to tell that whole story. But now the company just sticks with that because it's tradition.
They're really good though. They have like marshmallow in the middle, and it's like they're seasonal, kind of like ribbon candy and like Christmas candy is, but they're really good.
It was
They were
either
seasonal.
to keep the chocolate cold.
Yeah,
and
they're
then
sold
Yeah.
from
they're stuck
September
with it.
through March.
Sherry
I
said
wanted-
they were really good because obviously we don't get them here, and I don't think Claudia has them in Germany either. So Sherry sent me some, and they're really nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted to know, were they discontinued for a second?
I
No,
don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
It has to
Read
do
the
with
story
like
and they
temperatures
changed the mixture. You can read the story about, and I think they changed it a little bit for some years, but I don't know how far away it is. And yeah, we have something pretty similar, Amy, in Germany. So I thought the texture is different because we have like a waffle on the bottom and not a cookie. So that was really confusing for me. As I ate it, it was like telling my husband, "Oh, that's like I don't know." But
I don't know
Yeah,
if you have it there. It reminds
Is
me
it like a
of-
Lebkuchen? Is it like a Lebkuchen?
it's like that's the funniest name for Americans. It's like the big man.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think anyone's going to know
Yeah.
what I say when I say this unless there's someone British in here. But it reminds me a lot of a tea cake, and I don't think you have that. in
I know
States.
what those are.
Oh.
I know.
It-
Yeah,
it
my
reminds me
parents
of-
are British,
it's
and
like a
yes,
tea
it's very
cake,
much
but
like a tea
nice-
cake.
It's very like a tea cake, so, but nicer and more chocolatey when Sherry sent it to me.
But British
And that's
chocolate
what it
is
reminds me
way better than American chocolate.
Yes, we do have better chocolate, that's true, but that's what it reminds me of.
All right, let's get into the episode.
Who would like to open? What would we like to speak about in regards to that episode?
Well, what do you have that? What did Mary put? Because then I think like that would be like a little bit more organized. So like we're not like kind of ping ponging.
The
Like,
giving
through
of the
different-
money.
Okay, yeah, I'll start. I think like, and me and Kathy Ann were kind of talking about this through Instagram DMs. I feel like, yes, like the time and place of Lorelai giving Emily the money wasn't ideal, and she could have done it at like a different time. She could have like went to lunch with her, kind of like Richard went to the restaurant with Lorelai and given it to her then. She didn't have to explain how she got it because then that kind of put Richard in a bad spot, although he should have told her. But I feel like Emily just got all butthurt for no reason. She was acting very immature because it's like Lorelai said that she was going to pay her back every cent. She said that, and she said that multiple times. And now that she has, now Emily's, pardon my language, bitching and complaining. She's only complaining because she thinks that they're not going to come back just because that Lorelai gave her the money, when in actuality, she never even said that or contributed the money to that. Because like now they're like, what, 2 years in or something like that for dinners? Like if they wanted to stop dinners, they could have very well stopped it. And I feel like Emily could have been a little bit more considerate and nicer about it, because that's all that she wanted to do was pay her mother back and still come to Friday night dinner, so they didn't have that over her head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Diana?
My question is about Emily and Richard fighting over whether, like, knowing about the money. So for me, that scene really called into question whether or not Emily is knowledgeable about Richard's investments. Like, why was that a secret? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that also to me seemed very strange because out of the blue, there was this investment that he made the day that his daughter was born. It's just the timing is kind of wonky.
I think that Emily is completely and totally oblivious to that aspect of their life. It's Richard's job to take care of the investments and the finances, and I just think that's kind of traditional with that type of marriage.
Lily and Stacy were both flashing.
Lily?
Yeah, I feel like you guys probably heard me during the episode being kind of upset at Emily, but I think Emily, she already kind of annoys me. She has some good moments, but she already kind of annoys me. So Emily should have just been like, oh, thanks for like, I don't know, actually paying us back. And how's next week? You still want to come over instead of just being freaking out. And it's like, you do realize that the way you're acting now is the reason they don't want to come over really anymore, because you act like this towards them when they do something that wasn't even like malicious at all. It's very annoying. She's like a grown woman and her daughter is a grown woman. She doesn't need to be like acting like a toddler. It's obnoxious. I don't know.
Stacy?
And then Amanda was flashing after.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I had two comments, one about Emily's reaction and then the dynamics with Richard and Emily. I think that the whole Richard thing, I think that's how he's often kind of shown his love, like for them in some ways, like all of his checks, different things like to go to Fez, like with Rory. And then the investment he made for Lorelai, when she was born, I think it was probably related to just his excitement about her being born and like how he loved her. And then when it comes to Emily, I think her reaction was just sort of based on how hurt she has been over her relationship with Lorelai, where I think it shows that she still wasn't secure enough in their relationship to feel like even if they didn't have this obligation to go, that she would still be included in their life.
Was Amanda, and then Claudia was also flashing.
Amanda, we've got two Amandas. So is it okay? Redhead Amanda.
Redhead Amanda at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Emily obviously did not handle that very well, but I think that when Lorelai first borrowed the money, I think that the implication, at least on Emily's part, was that she didn't want the money back. She just wanted time with them. And so I don't think that Emily really ever expected Lorelai to pay them back, and especially not all at once. I don't think that Lorelai had been making payments or anything like that up until this point. And then all of a sudden she's like, okay, here you go. We're free now. And I think the abruptness is partly what upset Emily so much, because she just wasn't expecting it, because it was so abrupt and all at once, and like, all right, here you go, we're off the hook now. So I think that although her reaction to it was over the top and unnecessary, I kind of understand why she reacted that way, because she was shocked. She wasn't expecting something like that.
For me, it's Lorelai asked for the money without Rory being there, so she should have given the money back without Rory being there too. It was like showing I don't have time anymore. I don't need to be here next week, so I give it to you now. I don't want to waste another dinner. So I think the reaction of Emily was totally okay. I would have reacted the same way as Emily in that situation, and probably most other people too, because it was not nice, it was not thoughtful, and it was not the way you do it. If it would have done differently, Emily would probably be like disappointed too, but not like this. It was like a shock, and you react like this if you go into shock.
I disagree with that.
I disagree as well.
T and Sherry, and
Kendra.
John, we want to hear you.
Yeah, I've been very quiet. Kendra.
I think that Emily expected Lorelai to pay the money back, because we all know that Lorelai said she would, and she does everything she says she's going to, especially when it comes to her parents. But I think Emily was shocked because it was a lump sum, and Emily expected it to be paid back slowly over time, and it was a huge amount of money. So Emily expected it to take quite some time. So I think it was just all shocking and too much at once. And I absolutely agree that Lorelai should have done it at any other time privately with her parents, without Rory, and not on her birthday. I mean, come on.
T.
I'm curious if you think that Lorelai would have come back for the following Friday night dinner had her mother not responded the way that she had, or do you think that it was given with the intent to not come back?
Anyone want to take that?
I mean, she did, there was no in that money exchange or anything like that. And obviously we can't speak for what's to come because we all know what happens. But I feel like with, like I said before, with them going to dinner as long as they have and them getting along to a point, I think it's kind of like implied that they're still going to go, because like if they weren't going to come to Friday night dinners anymore, they honestly didn't even need to go to the one that they went to, even though it was Lorelai's birthday. They could have just like sent the check to them and be like, look, this has been fun, but peace. But so I think like they do have every intent to go to Friday night dinner, because they like going to Friday night dinner to a point. And I don't know, it's just like, from what we saw and what Lorelai said, there's no indication that they weren't ever going to go. They said that they may occasionally not come, and that's Lorelai's words, but she didn't say that they wouldn't go.
Well, I think they should be able to have like the control of her own life. You know, that she knows that Lorelai likes control of her own life, and I think they should have reached a point where now she should have the choice to choose. You know, like I want to come or not. And I don't know. I kind of see both sides, but she should have been able to have this new relationship where they've been going to dinners and they're building on this, and you know, she shouldn't be forced to go every single Friday. Sherry, Lily, and Chris were all fasting, so I think start Sherry because she was there before.
Sherry?
I think Lorelai, when she got that money from her father, the first thing that she thought is that I'm finally going to be able to pay off. I mean, obviously she makes the joke about the Jimmy Choos, but she knows that she's going to be doing this. I think doing it on her birthday, kind of rude to her parents, but she was celebrating. She was happy. And I think she absolutely would have still come, not every single week, but she would have come. She wasn't telling them that by me giving you this money back, I'm not going to see you anymore. She had every intention of paying it back. She doesn't like asking for help. So thinking that she would still be under her mother's thumb, having that money sitting there and not paying it back, is not something that I think that Lorelai would have ever done.
Yeah, so I don't know that. I think Lorelai may have like started to come like every once in a while, but I don't think she probably would have come next week, because she's probably like, yeah, I'm free for Friday now, I can go do something else. But I think because of Emily's reaction, the main thing she lost is Rory wanting to go. Because I think Rory probably still would have wanted to go every Friday, because she loves her grandparents and she has a vastly different relationship with them than her mother does. So I think Lorelai would have went every once in a while, but I think Rory is now not wanting to go because of how they treated her mom. So,
Chris, you were flashing? Oh, a lot of people have said a lot of things already that I don't want to repeat, so I'll just pass. So, John, can we get your thoughts?
Yes, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
My thoughts are that this interaction is actually a classic example of the two different ways that the women view their relationships. Lorelai, and personally I would have done the same thing. Lorelai is all about settling and moving on. So she got the money. She's like, okay, before I dream big, because you, John, kept going about the in. But before she dreams big, she has to settle her debts. So she was like, okay, before I dream big, let me figure out how much of this money I got to give away. And then I can look at what I have in front of me and dream based on what I had in front of me. And I think that was why she did it as the very first thing, is that she just wanted to get rid
like she didn't want to dream bigger than what she had. And meanwhile, Emily saw the whole thing about money as a compulsion. This is a way for her to keep control over the girls. And by having the money be paid back, she's lost her control. And it never occurred to her that the last 2.5 years, they've actually built a relationship that would be enough to have the girls stay in her life. As soon as she saw that check, she was like, see these girls again.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
Mary,
very
do you
interesting.
That does make a lot of sense. That does. I
It's a big divide.
These 2 episodes, I'm just going to be completely frank. They, for the Lorelai character, they were very frustrating for me. Your assessment, I think, is pretty spot on, Mary. That's not why it's frustrating, though, because I agree she should settle her debts. I absolutely think that she deserves the right to pay that money back. I think it was terrible timing, and that's the biggest issue I have with it. And then it's compounded by the fact.
Why?
What do you mean why? It's not because the night's not. It's not about her. You know, like it. You know, I just feel like
it's Lorelai's birthday. Of course, it's
I
about
know,
her.
but I mean,
Natasha, let them speak, please. Jeez,
Well,
okay, damn.
I just feel like that. What others said was, you know, about the fact that Rory's there. It was, you know, that she asked for the money without Rory being there. I just feel like it wasn't. This wasn't the moment for her to talk to her mother about it. For me, the harder scene wasn't even that one. The harder scene was the scene between her and Rory, because I think Rory was right. You knew how that would go. How could Lorelai not know that her mother would get upset by that? We know Lorelai, and that kind of gets to your point there, Mary, about how Emily should have realized that after all this time they would have developed a relationship, but she hasn't. We know she hasn't, and Lorelai knows she hasn't. Why would Lorelai assume that she has? And I don't think that she does. I think that Lorelai full on knows that her mother still feels attached to that money, understands that that money is something that she feels control over, and that I think that annoys Lorelai. And I think that it was just bad timing. I think that she should have, as others have said, done that when she was alone with her mother. She should have approached it knowing exactly how her mother may react to it. You're right, it was her birthday, so of course she has the right to be happy, but that moment like completely ruined that whole evening, ruined her birthday in a way. And it's crazy for me to think that she wouldn't have assumed that would happen. And then she would reprimand Rory for getting on her about that. Because I think that Rory's right in the situation. It was kind of disappointing when Rory's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Like, that's true. Like, why? Exactly what she said was right. You knew that that's how she would react.
I saw Diana, Carl, and Chris flashing.
I totally agree with you, Mary, and I totally agree with you, John. I absolutely feel the exact same way. The thing that this is that the Gilmores, Emily and Richard, money equals love. Like, that is their love language, right? Money equals comfort and care and taking care of. And for Lorelai, money is a means to an end. It's not. It's necessary for life. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with caring. She just needs it for the things that she wants to do, like put Rory through children. So I think that's the key difference, is that Rory has picked up on the fact that for her grandparents, money is love, but she's really, I think she's frustrated with Lorelai too, that Lorelai like will not concede to that. And, you know, she's right. Like Lorelai did know what this was going to do. She did, because she understands the fundamental difference between her and her parents, which is for her, money is a means to an end. And for them, it's connection and love and care for them.
And, you know, I'll say something. This is another reason why I often, in these types of interactions, I often am more annoyed with Lorelai in the situation than with Emily, because I think that in a lot of these scenes, and I think it's a trend for me across the series with lots of characters, I often I'll give a pass to bad behavior if it's a reaction, right? Versus bad behavior that feels like an action, you know? And for me, the scene is a great example of it. Emily is ugly in the scene. There's no question. Like, I'm not going to defend her behavior, how she does it, but we all know that that's who Emily is. And we all know that that's how she reacts to certain things. Lorelai, on the other hand, is acting. She doesn't have to do that, and she does. And she knows that it's going to get a certain reaction. And so I give Emily more of a pass in that situation. I mean, maybe I should give Lorelai a pass because it's her birthday, but I just feel like that's not a reason. And it's also just a bad idea. Like, it's your birthday, like, you know, make it about that and about the celebration of this group of people. And I just don't think that money really was about, that money was truly, for me at least, it feels like it was truly about a relationship between Lorelai and Emily. That's it.
Yeah. So Chris was flashing an agreement, so we'll go Carl and then.
Well, as Mary, I will say when I said I was gonna pass earlier, I was basically saying I felt like Lorelai knew what she was doing, and what you and John kind of summed up in your comments was very similar to what I was thinking. So yeah, I was flashing agreement. So yes, thank you.
By the way, Mary, I did not consider what you mentioned there about paying off her debts and wanting to have that free before she moves into big things like Dragonfly. And I think that's brilliant and amazing. And I completely agree with you. It just doesn't change how I feel about how this all played out.
Carl and Redheaded Amanda.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that with Lorelai and the money and Emily thing, it definitely is relationship based, because as we saw with Rory and Chilton and the money thing and her going to the parents, it was the start of them, you know, establishing a stronger relationship. And Emily knew that. Emily knew that and felt that more than anyone else in that situation. And then in this episode where Lorelai's like, okay, that's done. Thank you for your time. You know, I feel like it took Emily back to the letter. Dear Emily and Richard, I'm going to be going off somewhere. You know, I'll call you when I get there. Love, Lorelai. Like, it really took her back to that moment. So I feel for this situation, it's hard to pick one side. For me, it's hard for me to pick one side. It's hard for me to pick one side for Lorelai, because I completely understand why Lorelai did it. If I had debt and I could pay it off in a lump sum, I'd do that right away. Money is a means to an end. I do not see it as a relationship thing. Get that debt crap away from me. I hate my student debt. I hate it all. So I completely understand where Lorelai is coming from. She's about to do Dragonfly and big things, you know, all that stuff. And then I also understand Emily, because Emily has dealt with that kind of like, you know, that coldness thing with Lorelai. She has been cut out of Lorelai's life before, Lorelai and Rory's life, might I add. So she just felt like it was going to happen again, and she did not want to experience that again. Emily understood that. Richard understood that. Rory was confused, but she understood that her grandmother was hurt. That was it. Like, Rory kind of knew, but she didn't really know what was going on. That's why she kept saying, I don't know. And she just simply gave an I'm sorry, because she just knew that her grandmother was hurt. So like with this situation alone, it's one of those, because I know that there's a few in the series where both parties will do something, and then I'll be sitting there watching the scene, and I'll be like, I understand where Emily's coming from, but I also understand where Lorelai's coming from. So I'm gonna just sit here and shut up. Like that's, and I think that's why I love Gilmore Girls so much with the writing. It's hard to pick one side on who's right and who's wrong for me. And like with that scene, it was definitely one of the many where I'm like, I don't know what side to pick, but I agree with both sides.
I'm curious, who has more control in the relationship between Emily and Lorelai over the course of their life? Like who has had
Lorelai.
who has been holding the steering wheel?
Lorelai.
I think
Lorelai.
can we do a
That's a Lorelai.
Lorelai and then Rory, then Emily?
I
I think-
actually think it's pretty evenly matched. I think that there's a constant power struggle between Emily and Lorelai with that sense.
Well, I would say I would say so for the series, but I'm asking about like their whole life. I mean, you know, obviously when you're a little kid, that, you know, there's a certain amount of power that your parents have, and I'm a little hazy on that. But like starting around where we've sort of seen the character in the series or know about the character in the series, it feels to me as though Lorelai has had a great deal of control over how their relationship will be.
Lorelai takes control by cutting everybody else off.
Exactly.
And
Diana,
so
Claudia.
and so in that way, I sort of, you know, this thing with the money and with like holding money over somebody in order to control them and whatnot. I mean, yeah, I get it. There's something about that that's distasteful, but at the same time, you know, we know that if Lorelai had to, she could easily get out of these dinners. You know, she's enjoying the dinners, and that's totally fine. And I think that ultimately all of that, I think it's the reason why I feel for Emily more is I just think that like Emily has been struggling to get any sort of control over her relationship with her daughter, and the best she can do, the absolute best she can do, is this: giving money and getting one night a week where they come over. And I just feel like that's huge. And Lorelai knows that's huge. And now even that amount of control is gone. And when Emily does these little things, Mary, that I know really bug you, where she's like, you know, manipulating and whatnot, for me it feels like it's the best she's got.
John, is it Diana, Claudia, Samantha, and just flashing?
I just had a quick question. John, do you think it's manipulation, or do you think it's more of you're not going to use me? Like I don't mind helping you, but you're not going to just use me for money. Like let's have a relationship. You can't just come to me when you need something and use me.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that seems
I think Emily wants to be used that way because then Emily has a say in everything.
I agree.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this like wants to have a say in everything. Like that makes a lot more sense to me if she's had a lot of say in stuff. But she has had so little of Lorelai for the past 16 years. And so how can we talk about like a character who like wants to have so much control over Lorelai? It's like she hasn't even seen her, you know, like she hasn't had her at all. She's just now getting something, you know, for the past 2 years or year and a half or however long. Oof. Okay. I'm shaking this off.
I think Lorelai said S3.
Hey, by the way, just so you know, we've hit 10:15. We haven't even started on the next episode. There's lots of stuff that we still have to talk about. I can't be here for that much longer. I think that I'm gonna extend to about 10:45. If we feel like we want to keep talking about this particular thing, it's definitely an awesome topic, and I'm happy to. But just want to make everyone aware that we got other stuff that we want to dive into as well.
Take a vote, John. Take a vote.
All right, that sounds great. Why don't we flash our mics if we want to keep chatting about this, or if we'd like to move on to the next episode. I actually think that, we have about a half hour, so that might be good. So flash your mics if you want to keep chatting about this. And flash your mics if you want to talk about something else in this episode. Flash your mics if you'd like to move on to the next episode. Okay, so moving on to the next episode has won out, and I'm sorry, but I feel like we've got plenty that we can talk about in that next episode, including stuff, surrounding Lorelai and whatnot. I'm guessing that we wanted to chat about Nicole and Luke, but
hang on. You had two things there. You said you will share a story you'll never forget about directing when you saw Long.
Chris Long, awesome director, by the way, great. Obviously, then they decided to bring him on in a full-time position as a consulting producer, directed specifically, for the directors. So he was always there on set in season 5. Is season 5, he's slipping him bread dig? Or isn't that the name of the episode? He's slipping him bread dig?
I'm terrible with names.
The big fight scene on the stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so season 5 he comes back. So this season was where I met Chris Long, and then season 5 he came back as a full-time. Anyway, he's great. He's amazing. I was really I just loved when he was on set, just because I loved talking to him and watching him work. And he was at the same during season 4. He was also directing a series on television that was like a Fast and the Furious type series, like a Tokyo Drift type thing. While also, what's up? What?
Was the series he was directing Drive?
I don't know. It would have been whatever was like really like a car type, super action, type Fast and the Furious type thing. That would have been on at the same time as season 3. He was one of the main directors directing there, and was also directing this. And I remember he said that it's never left me that one of the best sort of ways for an artist to hone their skills, hone their craft, is to be working on two things that are super opposites from one another, that are just really contrasting. And he talked about how it was amazing to be doing this show that was high paced, fast, jump cuts, super, super close ups, all that. And then to come to Gilmore Girls and have all this rigidity around specific, specific camera angles, and and he's specifically talking from the camera perspective. I know that obviously the dialogue's really fast in Gilmore Girls, but there were real specific rules for the directors on how far they were allowed to close in on the actors' faces. They actually had to. There was a line around their waist that you couldn't go closer in. So whenever the show does some kind of interesting closer than that close up, I always remember that, because I remember him saying to directors on set, we don't go any closer than that, and so I just remember him saying that, and it just always stuck with me how helpful it is for an artist, any artist, and in this case he was talking about directing, to shake off what you're working on and do something just absolutely in the opposite direction, something completely contradictory to it, to just sort of shake it off. And it especially after the show was something that I took took with me because I started writing and directing, and I wrote that series H+ that I've talked to you all about. And while we were in development for that, which took about 4 years, I was presented with the opportunity to write and direct something else. And it was this like high school indie rock road trip musical that I did called The Homes. And it was absolutely polar opposite. And I was working on these two things at the same time. And I found that I was bringing things from one into the other, and it was actually making the other one really unique and very different than it would have been if I had not. I would have probably been reliant on like tropes and cliches of the genre. And instead, I was lending from my other work and making something that was like super unique and different. And I'll just never forget that came from Chris Long. And it's something that I've carried with me into my career since.
Cool. And the other thing was you had a funny story about grad night.
Yeah, so just, I mean, it's just a small thing for those of you who don't know about grad night. The grad nights are all over the country, and usually they especially like in big public school systems, they usually have the seniors converging on some big entertainment destination. And in Florida, it is Disney World. I don't know if in California, for example, it's Disneyland. I would imagine that it is for like, you know, kids in the Southern California area. But in Florida, it's Disney World, and they, you know, it's like 30 to 50 schools, like big schools, just all there in the park, just roaming around. And there's one school in Miami that, at least back when I was in school, was banned for life because the kids from that school picked up the guy who was in the Mickey Mouse costume and threw him into the lake in his costume. And the guy, like, I mean, I'm laughing. It was kind of terrifying, but like there was a lot of mischief in those nights.
He could have drowned.
He could have drowned. Yeah, that's why I said it's terrible that I'm laughing, but he didn't drown. Yeah, just like lots of stuff, like kids passing around LSD and like and people like in grad night like tripping on acid. It was a very crazy experience. I did not do any of that stuff or partake. And our school was pretty tame, but there was this one school that I just remember. I don't know, maybe not a funny story. It's just
That's
just
really
a story
funny
about
that they did that at Disney World. They're tripping at Disney World with all those lights.
Yeah, that they like actually
had,
that they had little tabs of acid, and there was people were warned that like kids were going around with like wet tabs of acid and like rubbing them on people, which I don't even know, to be honest with you, if that actually works. But I remember back in the day, that was like kind of the thing, like if somebody like rubbed you with some with a wet tab of acid, that you were gonna start tripping. Anyway, not really anything more than just like they're talking about grad night reminded me of that, and then I was like, mention that little story.
The name of that series that you were talking about was Fastlane from 2002 to 2003.
It would have been Fastlane, yeah. Drive sounds like that's a little later.
Drive
is
2007.
Yeah, no, that would have
been.
But
it's just, I love that show. So I was like, when you were like, he was doing the fat, and that would have really sucked if it got canceled, and that's why he came back to Gilmore Girls. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess it would have been canceled, and maybe I don't know if that's why. But anyway.
So
that's the better of the two stories, because that story is awesome, and I hope that any artists out here, if that resonates with them at all, that's cool. The grad night one is just one of those memories that I have of just being in high school and just the craziness of being in high school.
I thought you were saying being inspired about like all the mischievous kids until you think
Well, no.
Okay, episodes. What do you guys want to talk about?
I want to hear what John thinks about the Dean and Jess fight. And do you think it was only about that situation, or do you think it was a full-on build-up and more than just about how he treated Rory?
Well, I mean, it's so obvious that that it's like been building up throughout the whole season. Like that was a powder keg waiting to explode.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, it's been brewing all season. Obviously, they've been setting it up for that to happen. And I mean, look, you know, Rory comes out of a bedroom with Jess and she's crying. I'm guessing that he thought that something happened there abusive, and that's why he did it.
He did ask her, okay, and she said no. Yes, no. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he asked if she was okay. Obviously, you know, she deserves to tell him, you know, how she's feeling before he jumps in. But I think that, like, you know, he also is going to jump to his own conclusions, whether that's right or not. That's what happens. You know, I don't think that it was like, I can't wait to beat up Jess, you know, and I've been waiting for this whole season, and now I finally can do it. Like, I certainly don't believe that that's what happened there. I actually think Dean was being very cool. He was not, he's staying away. They were hanging out. He was enjoying his time with his girlfriend, and it seemed like he was having a good time chatting with other people. And then that happened, and
oh, Shauna, can you mute me?
Oh my God.
I got her.
Sorry.
I'm trying to mute you, actually. There we go.
You muted me.
I muted you?
Yeah, it popped up to say the. Sorry, I thought it was Mary, so I muted Mary because I thought she meant she wanted to. Sorry, Mary.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not going to fault Dean one sliver for that. That's how I feel. I mean, unless somebody blows my mind right now about why I should.
I do agree with you.
I think Carl, Kendra, and Emma flash.
Carl.
I would just like to say, I like a fight. I like to see a fight on Gilmore Girls. It's a very, very chill show. There's a lot of talking. And then they fought. And you heard me. I was like, beat his ass. Didn't matter who. I just wanted somebody's ass to eat. So,
okay.
Yeah. I think it was a fun time all around, except for Lane puking. I was glad that Rory held up Lane's hair at that time. And she looked over to Jess, but she was like, my friend is puking. I'm going to help her. You know, like, I like that moment. I like that. She still was concerned about Jess, but she was holding up Lane's hair. And I do agree with you, John. It did feel like a powder keg waiting to happen. I mean, the first go round, I thought that they were going to beat each other up at the dance marathon, and they didn't. All they did was just yell at Rory and storm off, basically. And this was the time when they could fight. But the thing that I really wanted to know, like, we don't have to change gears on it, but I would like to talk about it later, is like, why in God's name did Lindsay stay with Dean after that night? Like,
no spoilers.
Well, wait a second. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to base the answer to that question just on the night.
Yeah, I'm going off of the night.
I think that what Dean did was cool. Like, I actually, like, I think that he assumed that something abusive just happened. Like, I really do. And if I was Lindsay, I would be kind of like, you know, I mean, obviously I'm not advocating fighting. I think what you're saying, Carl, is narratively it's fun to see a fight on camera.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that, like, you know, I don't know. I got the sense that, like, Dean would probably do that if he thought Lindsay was being hurt as well. And so I don't know. seems
but
reasonable.
Lindsay
It
is
seems
good,
reasonable
right?
to me that Lindsay would be, and by the way, Lindsay seems totally grounded. She seems like a completely normal person. It's the reason why everyone feels like she's not that interesting, because obviously all of these characters on the show have extremes about them, and she does not seem to have extremes about her.
I love her.
And so, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if they're going to stay together. I'm going to put out of my head anything that I just heard about them potentially staying together. But it doesn't seem odd to me that she would want to stay with somebody who would be standing up for another person that he thinks was abused.
Yeah, it was very chivalrous of him.
There was Kendra, Emma, and
who knows,
Vanessa.
even if it wasn't Rory, maybe he would have done the same for any girl coming out of a room with crying, and there's, Jess, a guy he already hates.
Totally. I mean, one thing that it tells me, if she does stay with him, is that she's not controlled by her jealousy.
Good point.
A lot of characters in this show are really, the jealousy gets the better of them. Although I will say that the Dave character, and somebody on Instagram Live mentioned this, like he seems to have the most control over his jealousy.
Yeah, I love Dave.
I think Dave's reaction was totally like justified. He's like, "Yo, it's been a couple of weeks now. You're gonna break up with him? Like, come on."
Yeah, and then also like taking Young Chu to the side, like, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you," which was fun. I mean, all of that was really great, and just the whole choreography of the episode was just fantastic. But, yeah. Do we want to venture into the bedroom, or do we want to sort of leave that as is? We do. Okay.
That's so important. You cannot leave that out.
Okay, great. Who wants to start there? I'd prefer not to. I mean, I'd prefer not to start there.
I will.
Start with this. Yeah.
I will. If you
Yeah.
don't mind. Okay, so that was the final straw for me. Not being Team Jess. I mean, I've never been Team Jess, but that moment was so disgusting to me because she literally told him wait, and he didn't listen to her and kept trying to pressure her, and then got mad at her for not wanting to have sex with him in a random guy's bedroom in his house. Like, it just is so infuriating to me. And that's something that I was just like, after saying that, I'm like, how could anybody be Team Jess after that moment? How could anybody be okay with that? Like, I'm sorry, but
let me just stop for just a second. This is a really charged moment. It's a really big moment, and we do have Team Jess fans that love Jess, love the character. So I just want to be careful, because I don't want this to be a reflection on the folks who care very deeply about this character and who resonate with the character, respond to the character. So so I just want to put that out there, just because I this is the biggest moment for me, for the character and for how we feel about the character, and I'm sure for Team Jess fans it's a challenging moment for them. So I just want to put that out there defensively.
From people who are Team Jess, like, how could you continue to be? Because I'm not trying at all to put people down for being Team Jess. It still is so shocking to me after that moment for people who like Jess. Like, how could you, like, what keeps you at Team Jess after seeing that? Because for me, even if I liked Jess in the beginning, like, that would have strayed me from being Team Jess after that moment, because it was just so shocking to see that, and for him to just continue to try to have a moment with her like that, like, I don't know. So to me,
So we
like,
have Claudia and Sabrina. We have Claudia and Sabrina flashing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you watch the show for 20 years to see how your opinion about that scene changes. I watched it the first time as I was about in the middle of my 20s or early 20s, and I really liked Chad, and I liked Rory and Chad, and I didn't think too much about it, if I'm honest. And now I'm working as a therapist with PTSD patients, and I now think completely different about that scene because I think, oh my God, she said no, and he did it anyway. But on the other side, yesterday we had a really long talk about how people talk about sex in the USA. And if I think about that discussion about yesterday now, I think who talked about sex with Jess? Probably nobody talked with Jess about sex. So how did he know how to react? I'm still no Team Jess, but I think I might need to think about both sides and not just about it's a bad thing.
So there was Sabrina, then Regina, and Lily.
Great. Sabrina?
So the way I see it is Jess was not going to rape her. He wasn't intent on it. Like when you're in the moment, you kind of like trying to get more, right? But I think the whole thing, like his meltdown and stuff, all stems from having his life traumas. You look at Jess, and now he's getting kicked out of school. He's having a hard time with Luke, and it all just boiled down to all of his emotions coming out at once, and he didn't know how to handle it because of how he was raised.
Regina and Lily.
Regina?
I just wanted to say, like, no doubt Jess was completely inappropriate in this scene. I wouldn't say this scene is attempted rape per se, because I know the R word has been thrown around in this discussion. He did definitely pressure her, and that objectively across the board sucks. But in terms of teams, like, I'm technically a Team Jess person in the sense that I'm rooting for that character to succeed. You know, I see him like, you know, I want him to be better and do better, right? But just because we ascribe to a team, it doesn't mean that we can't hold our favorite character accountable and be critical of him. So that's just all I wanted to say.
Jess is definitely not garbage.
Well, I definitely agree with, was that Regina was just talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, you know, obviously he's like one of my absolute favorite characters of like the whole series. Like, I can say that was absolutely like not okay in any way. I mean, I think what Claudia was talking about, like the whole how he wasn't taught and stuff, and just because I think one of the reasons why I didn't like hate him per se after that was not only because I've seen the whole show, but also because I think I resonate with him and his story and like his trauma and everything, so that it's really hard for me to sort of not like him. But I do absolutely hold him accountable for like that because it was not at all acceptable.
Do you think that Jess holds himself accountable for it? Do you think he's leaving that party feeling like I fucked up?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think you could see it in his face, like when Rory pushes him off. Like I think he realized that, like, oh man, I messed up.
Yeah, and like that explosion that he has on her, where he's just like I didn't ask you to come here, all of that kind of stuff. It sounds way more frustrated at himself and just just everything that's happened. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily. It feels like Rory was just in the line of fire.
Yeah, and when she says, "I don't know what I did wrong," and then he's like, "You did nothing."
He 100% knows that he messed up.
Yeah.
Fully. Sorry, what's the order, Mary?
Shauna and Veronica.
Shauna?
Okay, I guess I didn't see exactly what you guys were seeing. I didn't see him pushing that hard. I mean, she said wait, and then he moved. So I mean, I didn't see the pushing. I mean, I seen that he was frustrated when he stood up. I mean, like anybody would be. You're in a moment. And then all of a sudden you realize that moment is not going to happen. And so he was really frustrated, but he said you didn't do anything, and I mean
I'm, I like Jess as a character, so I mean, it's all good. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
Veronica, it was Veronica next? Yeah. Veronica.
Yeah. I think I can't remember who actually asked it. Maybe it was Emma. How we can still be Team Jess after this, and I think someone just mentioned it. It's because I see his heart. He absolutely knew what he did was wrong. And when Rory said, "I don't know what I did," and he said, "You did nothing," he actually went out to try to, make it right from then. But then the whole Dean thing happened. So of course with, Jess, he was so down on himself about prom and so on. He feels like a failure. He absolutely was just looking for comfort, I guess. And, maybe he shouldn't have been looking for comfort through sex, but that's where he was at that moment. And I think he was needing, that love and then, or that comfort. And then when it didn't happen, he's just like, I didn't even ask for that. I was by myself. You came up here and now I'm the bad guy, even though of course what he did was wrong. But I think it's that knowing that he did do wrong and he wanted to make up for it. And then, the whole Dean thing happened.
Something, I'm really quickly, I want to just interject. It's interesting because one of the moments I think it was in last season, right? I think, yeah, it was in last season, where that really bugged me about Jess was this time where he was at her house, he came over, Paris was there, and then Dean was showing up, and Rory was like begging him to leave because she just didn't want to have to deal with all what would go down. And as he was being pushed out the door, he was like, "You don't really want me to leave." It reminded me a little bit of the wait moment, right? Because I've always really been hard on that character about feeling sort of entitled. Like, I control you, like, not control you, I can troll you, I can, steal things from you, I get what I want. But you make a good point, Veronica, that really, if you really look at it, like, actually, there's so much control he doesn't have. There's so many things that he didn't get. He was placed here in Stars Hollow the first time. He is being, like this prom thing is being taken from him, and so just, I mean, it's something sort of, I just consider the fact that, like, there is another side to that, to a person who sort of feels entitled to something in the moment and looking to see, like, how much of their life has no control. And I do feel like there's some of that going on here. That's not me in any way defending his behavior or his entitlement in those situations, and certainly not when Rory is telling him specifically no, or in this case, wait, which is the exact same thing as saying no, by the way.
Yeah. And none of us are defending Jess.
Yeah. I mean, he's a complex character. He's a really, really, really complex character. And I also do what Claudia said is also really something that I hadn't considered, just this idea of, like, who talked to Jess about any of this, not just sex, relationships, how you treat other people.
I'm back. So we have T, Chris, Tasha, and redheaded Amanda.
I think it's interesting, John, that you were talking about, like, control and things being taken away from him, because I don't know, maybe it's because me being a mom of a teen, that I feel like he took the prom away from himself. It wasn't taken from him. He made those choices to cut school. He made the choices to take the extra hours. Nobody was forcing his hand in that.
That's true, but don't you think he was trying to do that to sort of don't you think that his intentions there were he thought that that was the right path to getting control, that getting some sense of control over his life. Like, if I work extra hours, if I make that money, I can, and like, I'm smart, so I'm probably going to be able to swing it. And that, like, had he known from the beginning that the prom would have been taken away from him, that he would have been like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, no, absolutely not. Like, I won't be doing that.
Luke tried to warn him. Arrogant.
Who tried to warn him?
Luke. Luke kept trying to warn him that school was the most important thing.
No, I know. I know, but I'm specifically talking about the prom. I don't think that he. Anyway, yes, I agree with you. I agree with you in the broad sense, but I do think that, like, I don't see him getting the job as this I don't see it as this irresponsible thing. I see it as he thinks that that's the right path. He's wrong, but he thinks that that's the right path. And
he definitely thought that money was more important than his education. So he thought that, like, going and getting more hours so that this way he could get more money, even though he didn't really technically need it for what, so that this could take Rory out. Like, what was he really going to spend the money on? That was just more of like him prioritizing something that he thought was more important than his education. But I don't think that it was taken from him, that control was taken from him, because he had agency with that whole scenario. But
the first time that he comes to Stars Hollow, that was agency sort of taken from him, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. But when he chose to come back and he chose to be at Stars Hollow and pursue Rory because, he wanted to continue dating her and everything like that, like, he, right now in this present, in this moment, he's making the active choice to be there. He's making that choice to be Walmart over his education, and that's his prerogative. But I mean, those are choices and consequences that are natural that he's going to have to deal with. But I think that as far as like feeling sorry for him, I don't necessarily feel sorry for him in the sense of like, the poor guy, he realized that he was in the wrong, after she said no, because she repeatedly had to tell him wait. And I'm not sure who it was
She said it twice, didn't she? Or 3 times?
Yeah.
A few times.
Yeah, it was a few times.
So we have Chris, Tasha, Amanda, and Laura.
So Claudia kind of touched on what I was thinking about when it comes to Jess's like experience with who taught him what's right, what's not right and stuff. But it also makes me wonder how we all assume Jeff has all this experience because he kind of gives off the airs that he's like this more experienced bad boy kind of guy. But really, is he? And was his reaction or the way he was sort of pressuring Rory without really, I don't think his intent was to rape her either, but I think he was just really caught up in a moment. He had these strong feelings for her. But was part of that, the way he was being was part of his inexperience, and then also her inexperience with that kind of part of a relationship and stuff made her feel extra uncomfortable, which she should feel uncomfortable with what happened. But at the same time, her reaction might have been a little bit stronger because she really has never had that kind of experience before as well, which then brings her running out of the room crying after he kind of yells at her. And then everything just kind of gets more out of control than maybe either of them wanted it to be. And so it's like, I'm not a huge like Jess fan in the way like where I think they should be together in the end and all that kind of stuff. But I think some of this, the way he acts, I think he's acting more than he actually is, like with experience. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I totally get it.
And I think that's part of this scene, but I don't know, maybe not in a popular opinion, but I don't want to fully defend Jess, but I also feel like he's not as bad as he appears in that moment.
I think that we can all make I'm pretty sure we can agree that he made a very, very big mistake. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who is next on the list, Mary? And I'm actually gonna have to get going here pretty soon, but I'm gonna stick around a little bit longer.
Tasha, then Laura, and then I don't know if you want to go on or.
Okay, so I'm back solely because I was getting
what was it, like updates from Kathy Ann, and I really did not expect you guys to not completely rip into Jess, so that's why I'm back. So
wait, you left because you thought we were gonna rip into Jess?
Well,
yeah, and I was like, they're not ripping into him. Come back. It's fine.
Well, that's a bummer.
I mean, we still could.
Because
Well,
I want everyone to feel like this is a safe space to speak about things. And
well, that and this.
I want to start a fight.
Okay, so
I know,
this-
except
this-
Carl wants to start a fight.
Bring it on,
Carl, no flame wars here.
Carl.
Hey,
You're
all right,
stirring
Tasha,
the pot,
Tasha,
and
you
I
gotta-
love it. Okay, I gotta speak.
All right, Tasha, go for
Okay,
it.
I avoid this episode for two reasons. One, because I didn't know what you guys were gonna feel like with the whole Jess thing, and two, I personally, just in general, I avoid this episode because it's so sad. Anyway, to my point, before I get into really it, I do not condone what Jess did. I will say that point blank. I agree with you guys on that point. He should have taken cue from the first wait and just stopped. I do not condone what he did at all. Just letting you know that. I will say that what contributed to him not kind of stopping, because I feel like if the whole prom thing, him being not allowed to go to prom, which I still think is really stupid, wouldn't have happened and things like that. And then the whole build up with Dean, I don't think it would have happened that way. I don't think he would have been the way that he was with Rory in that specific moment. Yet that does not excuse what he did, because regardless of how he was feeling or not, he should not have done what he did. But I feel like he would have been in more clear headspace if what happened, earlier in the episode didn't happen. And then as far as the fight, Dean threw the first punch. Like, he started the fight. He didn't know exactly what happened. All he saw was Rory running down the stairs crying, and then Jess coming out short after. So he, as far as he knows, they would have just gotten into a fight, and then Rory ran out. He didn't know exactly what happened. And so he threw the first punch. He started the fight. Jess continued, obviously, throughout the entire house. But I kind of fault Dean on the fight, and it's his fault. And he should have acted in a different way. And plus, he was dating Lindsay, so it's like, dude, your girlfriend, hello. And yeah, so
Oh,
Dean's
you
a
missed
vote
that
for the
part of
fight.
the conversation, Tasha, when you were gone. We actually did talk about that, but you were gone, so you missed that part.
Well,
Water.
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. So
That's good. Who do we have after Tasha? I just want to get a sense for how much before I.
The last person I saw was Laura.
Laura, great. And then I'll have one more thing that I want to sort of add to cap. This is, by the way, I mean, these 2 episodes were just fantastic, and I think it shows in how much we want to talk about all of this stuff. Laura,
the end of the season is gonna be great.
I actually thought this was the
perfect
last
to come
episode.
back.
When we were shooting this, I actually thought that that we were shooting the finale because it was just so big. But of course, no, a little more. This is episode what? That was episode 19.
18.
3 more to go.
18. Oh, okay, so we have 3 months. It's not even 10.
No, it was episode 19.
19.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Still
All
sort
right,
of. It's still sort of the climax, I guess. So like the next 3 episodes are a little more, probably going to be a little more denouement, right? No, maybe not. Okay, Laura.
Hi. Well, I wanted to remind you, I'm sorry because of my accent, I'm Spanish. I wanted to remind that Jess at the beginning appears because he's the character who is going to separate Lorelai and Luke. Then also he finds Rory such a nice girl he can also talk to, and I think he's at that point a rebel adolescent, and he wants to challenge the authority. He also communicates himself very, very badly with everybody. And that chapter is like the revolution for him because everything is like a bad time for him, like the prom and everything. And of course, he started also, he continued the fight with Dean because even if Dean started, they still have things of the past because of course, for example, the first time he saw Rory with Dean, for him he was not just a girl that maybe he likes. There was also someone to challenge in that point. For him was Dean also. So at that point, it was like the top of the top point that he also had to leave the serial because he was always he was going to start another serial, I think.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
This is
Milo
like
is leaving the show?
Wait,
yeah, I'm kidding. I know this. Laura, I have a question for you.
They needed something to break this Rory Jess thing.
I mean, I think that this was probably planned in the narrative before they even knew what was going to happen with Jess, like, you know, or with Milo and any other show. And I think that even if Milo stays on the show in season 4, and I don't know if he does or not, I think that they could figure out a way they're such a great writing team. So like they could subvert everything that we feel about him at this stage of the game. But I'm curious, Laura, what team are you? Or do you have a team?
Logan.
Who?
Logan.
No, I'm kidding.
I have to say that I started being Team Jess until this chapter. Because I found his character very funny. I mean, even the fight with Clara, with Dean, I found that funny. I mean, it was funny. Like I think the Paladinos were really clever to make this plot. But at this point, I just disappointed me like so much.
Yeah,
I think it's a hard conflict. You like the conflict between Jess, Dean, and Clara? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, I also found that point very funny.
So
it's a hard Jess episode to be a team Jess. Let's just
totally. And I think that I'm more there. My sensitivity here is also because, you know, I think, to be completely honest, Tasha, like a lot of the fun of these is, you know, is a little bit of the verbal sparring over the stuff. But, you know, I get that this episode is hard for Team Jess fans, and more than anything, I think my sensitivity is towards you folks. And so I want to leave because you know, since you spoke, T, I've just been thinking about what you said, because I think that you're right. And I do think he doesn't have control. I think he doesn't have control like throughout his whole life. I think that he also puts himself in the position of not having control, right? Like he was sent to, I asked you whether you thought he had control when he was sent to Stars Hollow, and you said yes. I actually, now that I think about it, I think your first assessment that he does it to himself is probably applies to that too. He was sent to Stars Hollow because you know, probably, you know, it was difficult for him, that, like, you know, he was likely making things difficult there. He was sent back to New York, by the way, which was also kind of like, no, you're gone, you know, which feels like a little bit like, okay, now, like, once again, you have no say here. But he was stealing gnomes and he was being a total troll. And so I'm wondering if the lack of control that I'm talking about sort of stems much deeper and goes, and its origins are really more in not having any real control over as you said, you know, like speaking as a parent of a teen,
Yep.
right? Like, and that takes me back to Claudia's comment, which is, who was there for this guy to help him with all of this, figuring this out? Because if he had a parent to a teen, for example, or not even parent to a teen, parent to younger than teen, then maybe he wouldn't be making all these mistakes, constantly making these mistakes, which put him in this position to constantly being, you know, denied of the things that he wants.
But who is he reaching out to? Like, I get what you guys are saying, you and T are saying, that, you know, his background and his stuff, but he is 16, 17, 18 when
I know, but what I'm suggesting is that what I'm suggesting is that it may have started much earlier, that it may have started when he was really young. And I can't fault somebody who may have been neglected at a much younger age than 16. You're right, he's not reaching out to anybody, but he might not know how.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna bring
if he
that up.
knows how to reach out if he's never had someone to reach out to, or had someone to take care of him that he's comfortable reaching out to. So it's very very confusing.
Yeah, I was going to mention as well that, like, sometimes when, you know, when you're put in that sort of position from a young age where you have to mature early, you kind of have these, like, responsibilities on your shoulders. And I speak from experience because, you know, I find it hard at times as well to reach out, you know, even though, like, I feel like at times I can be drowning and, like, you know, I feel helpless. I'm still not going to reach out to people because I don't know how, and I find it hard, quite frankly. So I don't fault him for not reaching out, you know, because I know from experience it can be hard.
Thank you so much for saying that, Regina, because I was going to bring that up, because, like, he has Luke, but he has Luke at kind of like a late point. You know, he entered the town at the age of like 16, and pretty much at that point, if you've been fending for yourself and doing things for yourself, you know, when you're 16, like, I don't need you, whatever. So yeah, thank you, Regina, for bringing that up. It can be hard to reach out.
Hey, John, I know it is 11 and we have kept you quite a while past your extended time, so.
Yeah.
That's true. We were supposed to talk about Gilmore Girls diversity.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really want to talk about that, but I do really have to get running. I think it makes sense that we did an extra 45 minutes. Obviously, we did 2 episodes, so we, you know, there was just a lot to talk about.
Make it an event, Carl. Make it a hiatus event.
Hiatus. Yep. That's what
Yay. Great. I love that. All right, everybody. And actually, you know what? I got a text message from Babsy when I was sharing the whole thing about the schedule, reminding me, this is another big wrench in the whole thing, reminding me that we actually are leaving town in order to get away from the fireworks for our dogs, and we're gone on the 3rd. So now I have to look at this whole calendar again and sort of figure it out. We may do something crazy like pile another episode and do some sort of a triple feature one day here on the weekend in order to, like,
you mean 4 episodes in one day?
4 episodes in one day, yes, correct.
Look at it. That would be a quad feature.
I mean, and look, that would be me really embracing Gilmore Girls fandom, because I know some of you have done 3 in a day.
It's a binge show.
That's a binge show.
I've done a season in a day, so.
Yeah,
all right, everyone. So just look out for the schedule. You know, all those dates that I mentioned that we're going to be taking off, I'm going to be keeping those as is. I want Canada Day off. I want 4th of July off, and I do want to shift it so that we can get the tailgate party on that Friday.
And you also said Father's Day too.
And Father's Day, yeah. Father's Day.
Because first Father's Day is very, very special.
Yeah. Father's Day.
So you're going to fix your schedule?
And I'm going to fix the schedule. Don't worry.
Okay.
Father's Day, we're going to be doing a tailgate on Friday, the 25th, and we're going to be taking off Canada Day, and we're going to be taking off the 3rd, and we're going to be taking off the 4th. So we're going to actually end on Friday. somehow.
Tell
Not
me
that's what we're gonna do.
Before you go, can you make everybody moderators so that if
Oh
I
yes, sorry.
I can
Forgot
do that.
Claudia,
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right, Claudia, you can do that. Thank you so much, everyone. Please
Thanks,
stick around.
John.
And
Thank you,
continue.
John.
This was
See
awesome.
you later.
See you tonight.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good one.
Have a good day.